This video will contain sensitive material that may not be suitable for all audiences, such as murder, drug addiction, and more. Your discretion is advised. Just like many cases I have learned about, I found this case through Kendall Ray's channel. Since then, I have followed the Twitter account, and the case ultimately makes me feel a sense of frustration and being upset because there's loads of evidence and there's witness reports showing that this was not a suicide, but the cops pretty much ignore this, and it makes me really question how the police reacted in this situation. But without further ado, this is DJ Storey. DJ was 27 at the time of his death with 3 children, a son and 2 twin daughters, none who were even old enough to begin school yet. He lived in Georgia with his wife and children while still being close with his mother and sister, who lived about an hour away in Alabama, I believe. DJ was described as a good father who loved his children, and he was an outgoing and friendly person who seemed to just light up the room when he entered. DJ was someone you could very easily talk to, and it would feel like you were talking to an old friend. He was, of course, the only boy out of 4 sisters, which I can relate to since I am the only girl with 4 younger brothers, so I understand how that can be. DJ was also very close to his father and overall was described to be a really great person.
He never met a stranger. DJ could walk up to anybody, just anywhere, and strike up a conversation with them, and they would talk to him like they had knew him his whole life. He never met a stranger. He was just, people were lured to him. You could go into a room and DJ would be the one that got your attention. He was the one out there making everybody laugh, getting, telling the jokes, telling the stories, getting everyone's interest.
Unfortunately, DJ and his wife had issues with having drug addictions, which is why many people think that the cops don't take the case seriously as they should, and a lot of people actually kind of look down on DJ and his wife for this. I do not agree with this. I actually have had addicts in my family, and Lord knows I would want just as much justice for them as I would anyone else in my family, so don't send hate towards the family because of this, because it is overall it is a mental illness considered by a lot of therapists, and it is something that needs to be addressed in rehab and therapy, so it's not as easy as, oh, suddenly I don't do drugs anymore. It is something that is very hard, and from what I can tell, DJ was trying to make a better life for himself, so please don't harass the family for this or anything.
I still to this day say that DJ didn't have a big drug problem, because DJ could come home and stay for months at a time and never use the first drug ever. It was like how some people are social drinkers. DJ was a social drug user. He would get around the wrong people, and if they were using drugs, DJ would use them. His drug problem didn't get bad until he met up with his wife, Brandy. She was also a struggling drug addict, so 2 drug addicts together didn't really work out very well.
Now, as I mentioned, DJ did go to rehab. He was hoping to overcome his addictions, and this apparently was a very good move for him. But his wife, however, was still struggling, and this caused many issues in their marriage, as you would imagine. It was a very hard time for them, and, they still loved each other, but with their addictions, it just made many issues come about.
They loved each other very much. They were in love. But like I said, Brandy had a drug addiction too. She had a drug problem. And when one would want to get clean, the other one didn't. When the other one wanted to get clean, the other one didn't. So it was kind of a clash. They just clashed together. When they would be coming off the drugs, they would argue, have little, spats back and forth. And they would end up end up taking off. You know, one would end up leaving. Of course, DJ would be right behind her wherever she went, begging her to come back home, begging her to, come back. It was a routine with them. We knew what to expect, but they did love each other.
However, because of these issues and the wife still struggling with her own addiction, she eventually started getting in contact with, I guess you could say, a supplier who will be referred to as the roommate.
We met the roommate through DJ's friend, and he's just a mutual friend of DJ's friend. He's actually a friend of the property owner of where the incident happened.
This escalated to the point that DJ's wife and the roommate had started an affair. Now, DJ was very loyal to his wife and refused to leave, and he would constantly go and try and win her back because he really did love her and he really did want her to stay. But I also do believe that part of the reason he wanted her to stay was for the sake of their children. Now, whenever he went to go and win his wife back, this would not go well with the roommate, as he would become physically violent with DJ and sometimes would use various objects around the house to threaten DJ. I believe one of the things he used to threaten DJ with was a golf club, but I'm not entirely sure, so if I got that wrong, please tell me down below. But happily, DJ and his wife did end up getting back together.
DJ and Brandy had actually gotten back together a couple of days before he was killed. So he was on cloud nine. He was happy as he could be. He called and checked in and talked to the kids every few days. And a couple of days before he got killed, he had actually called and talked to my mom and talked to his little boy. And his little boy told him he wanted a choo-choo train for Christmas. Well, DJ made sure to tell my mom not to get that choo-choo train for Jack, that he wanted to be the one that got that for him. So he was making plans for his future.
Me and DJ was good. We was together. We've been staying there, and there have been some things that had happened up before the incident, and I had felt it in my gut that something was going to happen. I just didn't know what.
DJ, his wife, and the roommate, and two other witnesses who were friends with the roommate were at this house together. I can't remember who owned it, but this was kind of just a house they would all meet up, and they'd do drugs there and a bunch of different things. So they were all there, and while DJ was there, he would text his mother very frantically about how he felt endangered and that she needed to pick him up or else he would be harmed or even die. But because of his past and his mother being very, very ill, she couldn't handle any more stress, and she decided not to pick him up. Now, she does really regret this, as I think any of us would, but keep in mind that not only was she very ill, she had to get, I think she was getting a pacemaker in, or she already had one, but, it was something that was very, very urgent for her, and if she had handled the stress, she could have died herself, and she also lived an hour away. So even if she did get there, I don't think she would have gotten there on time. So I don't want to see any comments going like, oh, well, why didn't his mom just pick him up? It was because of these circumstances, and I'm sure she very much regrets this decision. But according to the witnesses, DJ and the roommate were fighting around this time and arguing, and moments later, after he sent his mother a final message, DJ was shot in the head, and roommate decided to call 911, and he claimed that DJ had shot himself in the head with a shotgun, and the 911 operator for some reason told roommate to move the gun out of DJ's hands, which is like something you should never do. That ruins forensics, and you've basically contaminated very crucial evidence. The gun is very crucial evidence if it was ever in his hands, and that's one of the reasons people think that this could be a murder, because it does not make sense to grab the gun and take it out of the person's hand, and it makes you kind of wonder, like, why did the 911 operator say this? But anyway, he did all this while on the call with the 911 operator.
At the gun up and check, see what it was. It was a 12 gauge. Okay, so you moved the gun, is that correct?
A very irritating thing was that no forensic testing was done on the gun. And as someone who has taken a class in forensic science, this irritates the living hell out of me because there was no testing done on the gun, and that DJ's death was immediately ruled a suicide despite the wound being on the left side of his head at a downward angle. It makes no sense for the wound to be there if it was really suicide. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. You couldn't really manage to aim from that point. And it was also on the left side of his head, but DJ was right-handed, so there was not only no way he could have managed to point it in this way with a shotgun, which is heavy, he'd have to lift it up, but also doing it with his left hand would have been very, very difficult for him. On top of this, the shotgun that was used to take DJ's life belonged to the roommate. Now, a big thing that was also mentioned was, DJ had trace amounts of meth in his system, so he could have totally fought back. This is not how meth works, though. Even though it raises adrenaline and it can take the edge off certain kinds of pain, it does not mean you are invincible to many things, including a gunshot to the head. Plus, having traces of meth in your system does not mean you are currently high on meth, nor does it even mean you had meth on purpose, especially if they just found certain chemicals that were associated with meth in his system. It doesn't necessarily mean that he took it or even took enough to get the same high you would from a certain dosage. And he also had THC in his system, which, if you all don't know, is the chemical found in marijuana. This means that he had to also take some marijuana, which would very much dull the effects of the methamphetamines. I'll just refer to as methamphetamines because for some reason saying meth doesn't sound as good to me for some reason. But yes, if you had marijuana in your system as well as methamphetamines, it would dull down the adrenaline and the ability to fight back as much. You would have hella pain resistance, but again, it's not to the point that you're Superman and you can get shot in the head. So that is a very confusing point to make, that because he was on meth, it means that, or at least that he had traces of it in his system, means he should have been able to fight back. It's an insane claim to make. Now, DJ's wife does claim that she watched roommate kill DJ by shooting him in the head with the shotgun.
I remember coming out of the bathroom, and as soon as I seen DJ sitting on the couch texting his mom, the roommate come out from behind him and cussed him and shot him. After the incident, I ran towards the roommate in shock, and then I ran outside the house. But I realized that I had left DJ sitting in there, so I went back to him and held his hand and hoping he would pull through.
Other witnesses state that the gun accidentally went off and that it was all an accident, but roommate has time and time again changed his story and even failed a polygraph test. But as you all probably know, polygraph tests aren't totally reliable, and it's very, very hard to build a case just because the polygraph test was failed. Now, if you add it with the fact that he has changed his story multiple times and that it was his gun, and there are 3 witnesses saying that he did this, that's when you can build a case. The DA has refused to change the ruling of DJ's death, and so DJ's murder has been sort of just swept under the rug by the justice system and even police officers. The police have not spoken very much with the family, but the family has hired a private investigator to try and research and investigate into this case. DJ's sister does not believe that DJ committed suicide.
That DJ was dead, and I was just shaking uncontrollably. But I knew I knew as soon as my mom told me he was dead what happened and who did it. Suicide never crossed my mind. Never. Because I knew DJ wouldn't have never committed.
DJ's case should not be brushed under the rug. This is a very clear case that needs much more investigation by police. So please sign the petition to reopen the case down in the description, and please check out the Justice for DJ website as well as the Twitter account to follow if you want updates. Send as much love as possible. Lord knows the family needs, some strength in the situation. And I will also be linking Kendall Ray's video down below because that's where I got the clips for this video because it was very helpful to use it. So I'll link it because it's a really good video. And it goes into much more depth than I ever possibly could. So, yes, like as I said, send much love to DJ's family because, again, Lord knows they need it and I know that they will be in my prayers. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any thoughts or corrections of the story, please leave them in the comments down below because it always helps me know that if I've made any, if I've gotten any misinformation or I've gotten something wrong, I would very much appreciate if you mentioned it in the comments so I could update it somehow to make it so that it is not that way. And if you have any other cases you would like to see, please leave that also in the comments as well. And if you like content like this, please subscribe. And, well, that's really all I have to say. So, peace out.